Romance of the Three Kingdoms Chapter 20. Cao Cao and the Emperor go hunting. Dongqing is given a secret edict by the Emperor. It is Xuanda who holds back Cao Cao's sword arm and Guanyu who kneels to plead for Zhang Liao's life. He has a pure heart, says Xuanda. We need men like him. Throwing the sword aside, Zero Chao smiles and says, I was just joking. He himself frees the prisoner and wraps his own cloak around him. From that day on, Zhang Liao becomes one of Cao Cao's most ardent supporters. When Cao Cao and his men at last return to the capital, they are given a grand ceremonial welcome by the emperor. Hearing that Xuanda is of the imperial lineage, he names him imperial uncle and takes him into his confidence. Basking in his glory as the savior of the imperial house, Cao Cao grows more and more arrogant. The careers of those who displease him he destroys. But when his advisor Qingyu suggests that he might take the throne for himself, Cao Cao warns that there are too many loyal ministers who would oppose this right now. His plan is to be more subtle, to encroach upon imperial powers in such a way that few will notice and those who do would be powerless to stop him. His first step is to propose an imperial hunt and then to subvert it. Going on a hunt is not something the emperor wants to do. But he has found it increasingly difficult to say no to Cao Cao. So, against his battered judgment, the emperor agrees, and the date is set. The whole event is planned by Cao Cao, so although the court officials accompany the emperor, it is Cao's men who staff the hunt. The emperor is escorted to the hunt by Cao Cao. The emperor carries the imperial jeweled bow and the imperial gold-tipped arrows. The three brothers-in-arms accompany the emperor as bodyguards. However, with Cao Cao riding beside the emperor and Cao Cao's men massed behind, the courtiers and ministers are forced to the rear. This is completely contrary to traditional protocol. Suddenly a stag is disturbed and breaks cover. The emperor fires 3 times with his bow but misses each time. Now you try, cries the emperor to Cao Cao, who takes hold of the imperial bow and arrows and with one shot brings the stag down. Seeing the imperial arrows strike the stag, all the courtiers and ministers assume the emperor fired it himself. They break into sycophantic applause, pressing forward to congratulate the emperor, crying, "May the emperor live for 10,000 years." But it is Cao Cao, not the emperor, who acknowledges the praise. Praise reserved for an emperor. Shocked, the courtiers and ministers visibly pale, wondering what this could mean for the future. Guanyu is so furious that his great eyebrows rise in anger, and his piercing eyes glare. Urging on his horse, he charges forward, his great sword drawn, determined to slay the upstart Cao Cao. Just in time, Xuanda catches his eye and hastily signals that he must not attack. Furious, but obedient to his elder brother, Guanyu reins in and sullenly puts his sword back in its sheath. Xuanda faces Cao Cao and congratulates him on such a great shot. But Cao Cao, laughing, says, it is only possible because of the blessing of the emperor, and so saying he rides over to the emperor to express his congratulations. But he does not return the imperial bow. Instead, he hangs it over his own shoulder. After they have all returned to the court, Guanyu demands an answer from Xuanda. Why? Why did you stop me? That man is a traitor, and I could have saved the emperor from him. Xuanda says, I did it to protect both the emperor and you from the violence that Cao Cao's followers would have unleashed. If we don't deal with him now, then he'll be a plague by tomorrow, retorts Guanyu. Discretion now, my friend, says Xuanda. This requires serious discussion but not now. On his return to the empress, the emperor breaks down and tells her of his fears. Ever since I ascended the throne, I've been surrounded by vicious ministers. First it was the awful Dongshui, then the rebellion of Li Ju and Guosi. You and I've had to suffer such sorrows, more than anyone could imagine. And now we have Cao Cao pretending to defend our honor but actually usurping it. Today, in the hunt he tricked my ministers and officials into giving him praise, which was really meant for me. I fear that he is planning to lead a rebellion. I don't think we are fated to die natural deaths. At this point they are joined by her father, Fu Wan. I know how to get rid of this man, he says. So you saw what he did? Replies the emperor. Impossible to miss. But we have to be careful. The court is full of his cronies, says Fu Wan. But I believe I've a solution. Let's ask Dongqing, the brother of the imperial concubine, to assist us. But beware. All your staff are in the pay of Cao Cao, so we must do this in great secrecy. This is why I have a plan. Have a special robe and jade belt made for Dongqing and present it to him formally. But, within the jade belt, create a hidden pouch, and there hide a secret formal imperial decree. This he will discover when he gets home and examines the gift. The decree will give him authority to take whatever actions he deems necessary. Then he can act, and not even the deities above or the ghosts below will know anything about this. So the emperor writes the secret decree. Biting the tip of his finger, he writes it with his own blood. No more powerful sign of his serious intent can be imagined. And it is the Empress herself who sews the secret message into the secret pocket. Summoning Dongqing, he takes him to visit the temple of the Han ancestors. They walk side by side through the imperial gallery, where the portraits of the former emperors hang. Walking from portrait to portrait, the emperor reflects upon the fortunes of the former rulers and bemoans his own weakness. Dongqing is confused and alarmed, especially when the emperor starts to point out pictures of those who supported or came to the aid of former emperors. Turning to Dongqing, the emperor bluntly says, "Now we need you to protect us just as these heroes did in the past. But I don't have the ability of these great ones. How could I possibly serve you as they did," says Dongqing, to which the emperor replies, "I remember well how you rescued us when the western capital fell. No reward is enough to express our thanks to you for such bravery." Then he gives Dongqing the special robe and belt. "Examine this belt well when you return home," whispers the emperor. Dongqing, understanding only too well what he means, nods his agreement. However, Cao Cao is waiting for Dongqing just outside the palace gate. "Why are you here? What brings the imperial relative to visit?" asks Cao Cao. "His Imperial Majesty wished to give me a gift of this robe and belt," replies a thoroughly alarmed Dongqing. "Indeed," says Cao Cao, "and why would that be?" "Because I helped to save him when the western capital fell," replies Dongqing. "Let me see this belt," demands Cao Cao. When a very frightened Dongqing hesitates, Cao Cao has him stripped, and the robe and belt handed over. Cao Cao asks Dongqing, "Would the imperial relative like to present me with the robe and belt?" A terrified Dongqing has to use all his diplomatic skills to ensure that Cao Cao returns them. "As you know, sir, a gift given by the emperor cannot be passed on to anyone else." Frustrated, Cao Cao says, "These gifts, they're part of some plot, aren't they?" "Of course not," replies Dongqing. "Who would dare do such a thing? But if you really want to be sure, please take them." "As you have pointed out," replies a reassured Cao Cao, "these imperial gifts cannot be given away." And so saying, he hands back the robe and belt to a hugely relieved Dongqing. At last Dongqing reaches the safety of his home. Here he puzzles over the emperor's words and examines the belt in detail. But he cannot see any hidden secret compartment. After long hours worrying about this, he falls asleep. As he sleeps, a spark falls from the candle and burns a hole in the lining. Smelling the burning material, he wakes up with a start. Then and only then does Dongqing sees that beneath the lining is a document. Pulling it out, he stares with astonishment at this document written in the emperor's own blood. It commands him to create a group of patriots who will rid the empire of the rebels gathered around Cao Cao and restore the dignity of the dynasty. It is the year AD 199. The infamous incident during the hunt has outraged many. Soon Dongqing has literally signed up on a long piece of white silk as co-conspirators the following courageous men: Wang Zifu, Chong Ji, Wu Shi, Wu Xilin, Ma Ting. Inspired by the high status of these five, Ma Ting determines to advance the plot. He recommends that they go and see the most powerful person he knows. One who could help this conspiracy to succeed. And who is this? Let's find out.